Welcome to ProFiles with Jason Patterson. A pleasure to have you with us as we reflect upon the remarkable career and extraordinary life of former Hendersonville Bearcat and North Carolina Tar Heel linebacker Eric Gash. Take us back to Hendersonville, North Carolina, the land of the Bearcats, the land of the Gash boys, whichever way you want to go with that. Take us back there. What was it like in your formative years, Eric?
Growing up here in a small town, man, it was good. I didn't really know how good I had it growing up. You know, back in those days in the 70s and 80s, you know, you could go outside and play all day and leave the house wide open and come back and find everything intact the way it was when you left it. Or as my mom would say, you play until the street lights come on. And we spent a lot of time on the sand lot playing all the sports. Football, basketball, baseball were the big three that we always played. And that's kind of where we really learned the intricacies of the game. Of course, you know, when we were younger, we always played with guys that were older than us. And so they always put all the little guys on one team and the older guys on the other team. And we played a game called pickup tackle. Really what it was kill a man with the ball. You know, they throw the ball at one of the little guys and they just really pummeled us, man. We ran for our lives. But that made us a little tougher. And I remember when the day came when we, you know, hit our growth spurt and we got just about even with those guys. And the defining moment, JP, was when one guy threw my brother the ball. And, you know, we had a little incline over our old practice field now. That little hill was still there. And he threw Sam the ball and he said, "Get up on the hill and run. I'm gonna get you." And Sam was like, "Okay," you know, kind of shaking in his boots. Sam got the ball and he flattened the guy. I mean, he ran him straight over. And it was almost like the veil was lifted. And we're like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me we can play with these guys? And so that changed the game. They stopped wanting to play with us, you know. But that's why I credit a lot of our, you know, football success is, you know, to the Sandlot, as well as basketball. We won a state championship in basketball and should have won one in baseball my junior year and senior year, but we didn't quite make it that far. But, yeah, I credit that childhood and growing up during those times, man, a lot to our success as we got older.
Let's revisit that experience, the state championship opportunity in basketball. Take us back there as well. Walk us through those days. What was that like?
Like I said, JP, we grew up on the sandlot, the basketball court. There was a court just below our house that no matter what time of the day it was, if you wanted to play a pickup game of basketball, all you had to do was get a basketball and go down to the court and start shooting, just start bouncing the ball. And that was almost like, you know how in Batman, you know, Commissioner Gordon would flash up the Batman sign? Well, that's what it was to us. We hear that ball bouncing. If we're at home, wherever we were in the neighborhood, man, we came running. Next thing you know, it's 10, 15 guys down there playing pickup basketball. And, you know, you had to win in order to stay on the court. And that's with just us young guys. When the older guys came, right, they'd almost just kind of check the ball and start playing as we're on the court. We're like, man, we were here first. But, you know, we get a team together, and they get a team together, just like in football. And we'd have to hold our own against them, and they didn't take it easy on, you know. And that's what we learned. Just the grit, the fight, the tenacity, the will to win was formed there. And so as we all grew up together, we played sports together. When we got into organized sports in junior high back in those days, and then in high school, we were all on the same team. And so we kind of had that sixth sense, where we knew the movements of what each of us, you know, were going to do at any particular time. And we did that in junior high. We couldn't play like the little midget, I think they call it midget peewee and, you know, the football leagues back in then, because we were always too big. We didn't meet the weight limit. But when we got into junior high and high school, guess what? You know, the playing field was level and we could play then. And so when we started playing in football, we dominated and won. Didn't quite win a state championship, but we were so close. This was my junior year. In basketball, we just carried that mentality into basketball. And just the camaraderie, just the cohesion that we had from playing on the sandlot translated to wins on the basketball court. We were 28-2 that year and won the state championship. And we played down in Chapel Hill in the Dean Dome, which was a tremendous experience. But learning and growing together on the sandlot translated to victories, when we got into organized sports in high school.
Describe the emotions, if you can, for us of that day, Eric, of hoisting a state championship trophy and garnering a memory that would last a lifetime.
Wow. It was surreal, JP. First and foremost, to come from a small town in the mountains with I think now the population in Henderson County is just about 100,000. It wasn't that back in those days. In 87, we had about 500 students in our high school, and we were playing, 1A ball. And so to go from playing into a couple of hundred fans in Jim Pardue Gymnasium to the Dean Dome, it was surreal. We kind of felt like, if you've seen the movie Hoosiers, they went in and measured the rim and all this stuff. We did that a lot out of jest, but still, it was just a surreal time to be in the Dean Dome where the Tar Heels played, and so many greats have come through and played. We played, I think it was North Duplin, played a guy named Anthony Oliver against him. He went on to play at Virginia. And just to be down at halftime and really to fight back, like I said, in the Dean Dome in front of, screaming rabid fans and just looking at the ambiance and just the surroundings, just that whole environment was beyond belief. And then to win a state championship and to sit at half court and to get a picture taken and to hold that trophy up and put the medals around our neck, it was the cream of the crop. It was the height of my athletic experience, to that point in time. And what was also awesome, JP, is we then left the Dean Dome, walked over to Carmichael, where our girls were playing, and won the state championship. So from our, small town of Hendersonville, North Carolina, we had 2 state championships in the same year in basketball. So that was pretty special.
Well, you keep saying our as often as you say I. It's all about we. Certainly the case with you, but there's the hidden element in there of your brother, and you've talked about it a couple of different times. He's been there every step of the way. How special has it been for it to be a joint journey for the two of you? How special has it been to you to have him there and share those type moments alongside your brother?
It's awesome, to say the least. But what's even more awesome, JP, is growing up, my brother and I fought a lot of times. And that's a common theme, I guess, when you have brothers that are just about a year apart. Everything you're gonna fight over what you're gonna watch on TV, who gets to sit in the nice chair, who gets the last sandwich, who gets the last drop of orange juice or milk or whatever the case is. And we grew up battling against each other so much. And when we finally got to the point where we're playing on the same team in high school, that was really special. I remember a time, I think it was his senior year, my junior year, I played defensive tackle and he played linebacker. He didn't like defense that much, but I absolutely loved defense. But he was playing middle linebacker, and we were having a scrimmage during the preseason. And I remember the ball carrier came through and I shed the block and I hit him low and Sam hit him high, and we kind of like spun the guy in the air, and we just kind of looked at each other like, that's what I'm talking about. You gave a little dap and high five. And so to have him to be by his side and he by my side going through all that stuff, we had some very special memories, and just being in the huddle. And I remember when we played Powerhouse Asheville High, they had a big nose guard named Ray Roberts. He went on to Virginia to play as well. But I played center on offense, and Sam was running back. And I remember just telling him as we went up to the line, I would tap on which side of my backside that I wanted him to run. Because I was like, I'm taking this guy this way, you run this way. And we all night, he probably had a couple hundred yards just running right up the middle, all night against the Powerhouse in Asheville High. And so I took a lot of pride in seeing him succeed, as well as the other running back, Brian Johnson and Stephen Walker, and these guys. I took pride in that. When they rushed for 100 yards, we felt proud about it as an offensive line. If we passed for 100 yards, of course, back in those days, it wasn't a wide open, run and gun like it is now. We ran the power I, but we still had some success, throwing the ball. But to be able to share those experiences with him was second to none.
They know the Gash boys are coming for them. They can't stop it. They know it's coming, and yet they can't stop it. That had to be something else.
There you go.
What are the main values, the main lessons? What would those be that you would point to from those formative days, Eric, that you think has sustained you, that entire group? You talk about that group of guys who grew up in that era, who left their fingerprints on the land of the Bearcats, as I called it earlier. What would you point to as the main lessons and the main values that that group has taken that has allowed them to be successful, not only in athletics, but in life?
Wow. That's a good question, JP. I can't think about the values that we have without thinking about my mom. And that generation, our parents back in those days, they instilled discipline in us. They instilled respect. We wouldn't dare call an adult by their first name. It was Mr. So-and-so and Mrs. So-and-so. We spent every Sunday in church, so having that spiritual foundation was key. And you look at character, you hear people talk about character as how you are when nobody's looking. They really instill that character, the work ethic. We worked hard. The weight room that we had at the high school, we spent one summer digging that place out, and we spent all summer digging it out, but we didn't complain not one time. We filled up the wheelbarrows, taking it out, dumping it under the bleachers, and coming back and doing it again. Teamwork was big. We had each other's back, and we didn't let anyone. It's like Sam and I. We could fight like cats and dogs in the house, but if we went outside and somebody tried to jump on him or somebody tried to jump on me, you had to deal with both of us. And you take that sort of mentality into a team sport, and there's almost nothing that you can't accomplish. But I think some of the virtues that they instilled with the teamwork, respect, work ethic, carried us through those tough times on the football field, on the basketball court, on the baseball diamond, on the track, as well as I lean on those things in life right now.
Your wardrobe is a window into your heart. As I look at you right now, your visit to the Dean Dome.
Good color.
Did what I could for you. The visit to the Dean Dome, not the only time you would step foot on the Carolina campus, obviously. That's where you would choose to go to school. Why the University of North Carolina?
Wow. Man, you're full of good questions today, JP. Well, first and foremost, it was going to be what I and other Carolina fans like to call the other Carolina. And that's the University of South Carolina.
Careful.
A lot of time.
Careful.
Yeah. Spent a lot of time going there. And that actually, I was leaning towards USC. And then Carolina hired a new coach by the name of Mack Brown. And then a buddy said, hey, have you thought about Coach Brown? I think you should just meet him, give him a chance. And so I said, fine. I was kind of heavily recruited coming out of high school, a lot of the ACC schools. And my brother Sam had opened up, the door, and people kind of figured out where Hinsville High School was. And so I remember meeting Coach Brown. I said, all right, you never know. I'll give him a shot. And just making that immediate connection with him, he won the heart of my mom first by letting her know that if I chose to go to the University of North Carolina, that he was going to hold me to the same standards that she held me to, which made me kind of scratch my head. I was like, wait a minute, my mom is tough. And I know if she's tough, then he's going to be just as tough. He spoke to my mom, and he won her heart. He looked her in the eye, and he said, if your son chooses to come to UNC, I'm going to treat him like he's my own son, like he's my own flesh and blood. And that really resonated with her because, of course, everybody's going to come in and say, oh, we're going to win a national championship with him. Oh, he's going to help us in this way, shape, form, or fashion. But he connected with her as a mother, as a parent. The next thing he connected with her with is the degree. Your son's going to earn a degree from the University of North Carolina. That's going to be able to open up doors all across this nation and even the world. And so he hit the two most important things, relationships and academics. And so my mom was actually behind the scenes was like, I like him. Let's give him a shot. Let's take a look and see. And I was like, yeah, Ma, of course I'm 18 years old. I can take on the world. I know what's best for me. Ma, thank you for your input, that sort of stuff. But Coach Brown really resonated. And actually, Carolina was the last official visit that I took. I had to make a decision between them and a few other ACC schools. And I said, let me go to Chapel Hill and see what's up. Oddly enough, I'd never gone to watch a football game at Carolina. And the only time that I'd stepped on the campus was during that state championship back in '87. My host was a guy by the name of Cecil Gray, big defensive tackle from New York. This guy was larger than life, like 6'6", 280, and, ran a 4.7 in the 40. I mean, he was larger than life. But he connected with me and said, man, we're going to treat you like family here. And when I sat down with Coach Brown, it was just that connection. My mom felt at peace and at ease with it. I felt at peace and at ease with it. He was a new coach coming in. He was looking to build a foundation to, just reestablish Carolina football here in the state as well as nationally. And I connected with that message. And I decided to go to Carolina. And actually, when I made the announcement, this was back before the days of having all the hats in front of you, I told the sportscaster that I'm going to be playing ball at Carolina. And he said, that's South Carolina, right? And I said, no, North Carolina. And it was like, whoa, wait a minute, because everything they'd heard and I committed and all of these things. And, I just told them pretty much the same thing, that I just really had that connection with Coach Brown and really believed in what he was trying to accomplish there at Chapel Hill.
What were your first thoughts walking onto campus there in Chapel Hill and entering Kenan Stadium for the very first time? What went through your mind, Eric?
Lord help me. Like I said, it was, I come from playing at Beach Field, where it's only, maybe 1,000, 1,200 fans, to going and sitting in front of 50,000 fans. I just didn't want to make a mess of things. Coming from a 1A school, I knew I was already kind of had the odds stacked against me. And so I wanted to go in there and just prove more so to myself that I belong there. And I remember this was during preseason camp. We'd always have these one-on-one drills at the end of practice, kind of like a bravado, macho, yeah, I'm going to dominate you and, so on and so forth. And I remember standing there. I guess the singer that saw me saw my eyes was like a deer in the headlights, trying to figure out, like, whoa, all this is going on. And he called me out. And he's like, come here, Gash. Yeah, let's go. And I was just like, well, now's the time. And, I remember we call it board drill, going one-on-one, and just you're locking horns and running your feet until somebody submits. And I remember being as nervous and scared as I could be. But when he moved, it was an offensive guy. When he moved, I just fired out with all of my might. And JP, wouldn't you know, I ended up pinning the guy. And people, they jumped on me and, high-fived. And that changed everything for me. Because belief is a powerful thing. And I started to believe that I did belong here, that I could be successful at this big D1 level. And my walk changed, my attitude changed, the swag changed a little bit. I went from being a shy kind of, country boy from a small town to saying, hey, no, you're going to have to deal with us. And here we are.
What are the one or two lessons maybe that you can point to that you carry from your time with Mack Brown?
I think tenacity. My mom always told me her quote was, keep your head in the clouds but your feet on the ground. In other words, stay humble. Yeah, you're going to shoot for the stars, but stay humble. And I saw Coach Brown's tenacity and humility in those first two seasons when we won one game each and we were 2-20 after 2 years, his first 2 years there. But he never wavered from his goal, from the task at hand. He always remained positive. Yeah, he cracked the whip. Yeah, he, when he had to, but we worked hard in the off season. We put the time in, and he said, fellas, if you put the work in, the results have to come. And I remember my first year, starting as a true freshman there, we could hardly stop anybody. It was, a scoring fest from both sides. And then my second year, my sophomore year, we got a little bit better on defense. And so we were able to stop people, but offense struggled a little bit. And so we're losing games 12-9, 15-21, things like that. And it kind of came together my junior year. We went 6-4-1, and then 7-4 my senior year, and the rest is history. But Coach Brown really taught about character, tenacity, work ethic, and stand the course. No matter how it looks on the outside, stay the course.
Which qualities would you point to as those that were most necessary to your success, those that were most critical to your success once you arrived on the college football scene?
Something that I didn't mention initially, JP, of one of the qualities that I think really helped us was humility. And humility is really looking at yourself from your proper perspective. I realized that I was one of the blessed ones to have an opportunity to play at the collegiate level. I realized that there were people that were invested in me, both academically and athletically and socially, and just really invested in my well-being. Medically, I had some issues going on, with back, ankle, hips, knee, all of these things. And I really wanted to repay them with giving them my maximum effort every single time. And that's something that I think will carry you far in life, not just in athletics, but you being the best version of you every single second of the day, giving it your all and realizing that at any moment things can change. And I would go into every practice that way. I would approach games that way. And I attribute a lot to that, to my spiritual life, the relationship that I have with my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Before I, on the bus going to the stadium, whether it be, coming from the hotel, whether we're home or away, I played a song, and it's called A Friend by the Winans. And essentially, it's like, no matter what happens, no matter how high you get or how low you get, you're always going to have a friend that sticks closer than a brother. And I would play the game as if I'm trying to please God. And I played the game as hard. And we didn't win them all. My first 2 years, we were 1-10. We won 2 games in 2 years. But things turned the corner, shortly thereafter, my junior year and senior year. And it's just through that hard work and perseverance and really focusing on the big picture, on the end goal, was to make sure you get better every single day. And that really kept us going, especially through those tough years, knowing that this is not the end. This is not the end of the journey. This is just a part of the journey to get to ultimately to graduate with a degree from a 4-year university, but to be the best athlete that you can be at that time.
When your mind drifts back to those playing days, what were the emotions like? What was that lifetime moment like for Eric Gash each Saturday when you were able to run out in front of that group of fans ready to cheer you on?
Yeah, JP, I'll tell you something. This really started, I guess, after probably my 3rd game starting as a true freshman in Carolina, in Kenan Stadium, running out to the stadium. I was near the beginning of the line. Initially, I want to be the first one to break through the banner and just, chomping at the bit. And then I realized that in order for me to be my greatest version of me, I had to be settled. I had to be calm. I had to be collected. I had to be methodical. I had to be thoughtful. I had to be articulate. I had to be just kind of precise. So what started to happen after that 3rd game or so, I came out last. And I came out last because I spent the most time in the locker room on my knees praying and saying, Lord, if this is the last game, I pray that it's my best game. I pray that I make you proud. I make my mom proud. I do my best. And I'll spend that time just thanking God for what he's blessed me with and the opportunity. And so by the time I went out there, I was cool, calm, collected, and don't take this the wrong way, but I really started to feel bad for the opponent and for the person that I was going to play. because it was almost like I just went to a different mode. And I was interviewed one time. This was my senior year, and it was a week we were playing Wake Forest, and I was interviewed by a Winston-Salem reporter, right? And he said, Eric, what's your mindset or mentality when you're playing football? And I said, in my mind, I think that this is my world, and in this world, I can do what I want to do. I can will whatever I want to happen. That was kind of my mentality going in. Well, little did I know, little old country bumpkin me, they had printed off. It was in the newspaper. Gash says it's his world. The Wake Forest coach had run these copies off and pasted it all throughout the locker room. Right now, that week of practice, I had strep throat, wasn't feeling well, and during practice, I got poked in the eye. And so for Saturday's game, I put on one of those visors. It's kind of commonplace now, but back in the early 90s, man, nobody wore that stuff, let alone me. And so I had my visor on. I've been sick all week. And so, as the game is progressing, guys are taking pot shots at me, hitting me, late and stuff. This is my world, Gash. This is my world. And I was like, come on, man. Fellas, leave me alone, man. I'm just out here to get through the game, I was kind of having a pity party. And all game, the first half, Jason, they're just taking pot shots. It's my world, Gash. Well, anyway, last play of the first half, we were up 21-14 at running back. We played in the Shrine Bowl together. This guy ran a 4.4. This is back when 4.4 was fast. You know what I mean? Now people running 4.2s and 4.3s. This is like 4.4, you're slow. Anyway, I mean, he was blazing speed. And I had him in coverage. I played outside linebacker. And I had him outside, covered outside. He ran a wheel route, which he just kind of loops out of the backfield and sprints down the sideline. And I knew it was coming. And I tried to get a jump on him, and he just flew by me. And I looked up in the sky, and I watched the ball sail over me, and he catches it right here. He's like, yeah, Gash, this is my world. Well, I came running off the sideline, right? I took my helmet off, and I just, forgive me, Damo. Damo was our equipment manager. I took the helmet off, and I threw it down. I said, get this thing off me. I couldn't breathe. My throat was sore. We went into halftime. That tied the game at 21-21. We came out in the second half. I snapped out of it, JP. We ended up beating them 42-21, right? But I kind of got caught up in I'm throwing a pity party, and I'll just kind of go through the motions and get through this. That taught me big time, man. You never go through the motions. You always give it your best, because there's somebody that's going to be waiting in the wings to take that pot shot on you. But I loved every second of it, JP. Every second.
As you look back at Eric Gash, the linebacker at the University of North Carolina, how would you describe him looking back on him today?
I'd want that fellow on my team. That's for sure. I was a student of the game, JP. I mentioned earlier that I almost went to the University of South Carolina. Well, we're playing them my senior year, and I have a plaque hanging on my wall. I got Goodies Player of the Game that game. Well, I spent a lot of time watching film. This is back when we had the reel, so you rewind it and stuff. And that game, especially my senior year, I wanted it to be special. Didn't know in what way, but I just knew, man, I had to give them all. This is my last chance to play against these guys. And I remember getting off the bus, and Coach Brown was standing there with a bowl official. And this is back in the day when you had only a handful of bowls, not the 60 that you have now, however many there are. And Coach Brown looked at me and says, Eric, you think we're going to win today? And I looked at him without pausing and said, absolutely, Coach, we got this, right? So we go into, the game's progressing, and I'm watching the tight end. I'm listening to the audibles. And all of a sudden, they make a certain audible call where they run a sweep. They make an audible call, they run option. And so listening about midway through that second quarter, JP, I was tapped at Roy Barker, who was the D tackle beside me. I said, Roy, sweep. Here comes the sweep. He's like, man, be quiet. I was like, Roy, sweep. Sure enough, they ran the sweep. then option. And I started calling out their plays because I figured out their audible system. Well, that game I had an interception, like 10 tackles, 5 solos. I got goodies player of the game. And it's because I was a student of the game. And I remember that game the most. Not, I shouldn't say the most. I remember beating Duke the most. But anyway, that really, really stood out to me as, man, you can be really good at this because I practiced hard, I studied hard, and I played hard. And, and as a high school coach, I would tell kids the same thing, man. Be the hardest working, the most studious player that you know, and you want the coach to want you on their team. And so my wife asked me a question: would I have liked you in college? Because we didn't meet in college. And I said, you would have liked the off the field me, but the on the field Eric, no, you wouldn't like him that much.
You have you've referenced a couple of those Tobacco Road rivalries already. Let's dive into the Duke rivalry a little bit more. Folks immediately think basketball when they think Duke, North Carolina, but this is a time when Steve Spurrier had taken Duke to a different level. Mack Brown just coming on the scene with your arrival there in Chapel Hill. What was Duke, North Carolina like in those days on the football field?
Oh, it was pleasant, nice. We offered each other's pleasantries. No, it was.
No doubt.
JP, let me tell you something. It could be tiddlywinks. It could be checkers. It could be horseshoes. And it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out battle. My first 2 years, they beat us. Once in Wallace Wade and once in Keenan. Well, when they beat us in Keenan Stadium, they posed in front of our scoreboard. All right? This may have been my sophomore year. They were just posing and stuff. And it was like, okay. And, for those Duke Carolina people know that we have a victory bell, that's exchanged between the two schools in football. And they were ringing the victory bell, and they were just kind of rubbing it in. And at that time, we'd always played them the last game of the season. And Coach Brown said, remember this. No, don't turn away. Remember this, because we're going to play them again next year. Right. And we ended up beating them my junior and senior year. I would love to say that we didn't pose in front of the scoreboard over there, JP, but we took a pose in front of the scoreboard over there. And I remember against Duke, and I remember part of this because I was told about this. Probably first or second series of the game, they ran a power at me, and I played over the tight end. So he blocked down. They send a backside guard or tackle to come and kick the end out and run up the middle. Well, the tight end blocked down, so I squeezed down on him, and I took, one of the linemen out. Well, his knee hit the side of my head, and I had a maybe I shouldn't be telling this, but I had a concussion, right? Or I was dazed. I had my bell rung. That's what I'll say. And for the next 2 plays, I was just kind of like, wait a minute. I made the defensive front call and stuff, and they're like, Gash, what's the call? I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, what do you mean you don't know? So anyway, they took me out of the game, and I was on the sideline, and I was like, Coach, I got to get back in. I was talking to to the trainer. I said, this is senior year against Duke at home. I'm going back in the game. But I just had my bell rung, not to get anybody, so I'm fine now. But I said, I can't miss this game. I can't miss this for anything. But it runs deep. Even when I watch it now, I was at the Duke Carolina game just this past year, and it was a close one where they were driving down, and man, they're on like the 2-yard line and threw a jump pass, and the kid intercepted it, and I went from what to just screaming and elated. But that Duke Carolina rivalry, JP, it runs deep in whatever sport you're in, And I think it's because we're so close. Yeah, there's a NC State Chapel Hill rivalry, but they're half an hour away. Duke, they're 8 miles away. I mean, it's almost like our campuses overlap. You know what I mean? And so, just having that close rivalry, I think it's good for sports. So it's really good for sports to have those rivalries going.
Wearing Carolina blue, what has that meant to you for a lifetime?
JP. As you can see, I have on my Carolina blue. My heart bleeds Carolina blue. Um, just knowing, I went back a couple of years um, after I graduated, maybe in 98, 99, somewhere around there. And I remember walking into the facility, the newer facility that Coach Brown had built. And I just remember walking around and looking at it and thinking like, man, this is fantastic. And one of my old coaches was there. And he said, you know what, Eric? He said, when your class came in here, y'all came in with pickaxe and shovels and wheelbarrows and, sledgehammers. We came in to work, to lay brick, to lay the foundation. He said, these kids coming in with blankets and, their PlayStations and, and I'd like to think that we laid the foundation. I was part of Coach Brown's first recruiting class in 1988. And I take pride in that. When I go back now and I see some of my old teammates that are in the front office, Corey Holliday is director of football personnel, Rick Steinbacher, Clan, our kicker. These guys they're embedded in Carolina athletics. And I take pride in that. Some of my old teammates are coaching there. And like I said, Coach Brown is back, and it's just kind of the cherry on top. And he's reestablished just the excitement back into Carolina football and just the swagger, I should say. But anywhere you go, especially in the U.S., but around the world, I've traveled, and people know Carolina, Chapel Hill, UNC, Baby Blue, the Tar Heels. They know us, and it means a lot.
You would go on to a high school coaching career before sliding over into more of an administrative role that you have currently. When did you know that you wanted to coach, and how did those moments with Mack Brown shape you in your eventual coaching career?
Wow. Well, when I first came back in 2008, moved back home, I knew that I wanted to get involved with kids. I knew that athletics, football, basketball, baseball, track, you name it, it played such an integral part in my life and given me such confidence, and given me an outlet to a physical outlet. Let's just keep it real. When I realized I could hit somebody as hard as I could and not get in trouble for it, I really started to like football. But it gave me an escape. It gave me a way out. For a couple hours on a Friday night, man, there are no troubles in the world. The only problem I have is the guy across me in a different colored jersey. And that gave me an outlet, a release to be creative in a destructive way, if you understand what I'm saying. And I wanted other kids to have that same experience, to know that athletics, this game of football, could give you an education, can pay for an education at a Ivy level school if need be. But it can open up doors for you. It teaches you a lot about life. You hear that said a lot, and it's kind of cliche, but I look at it as football is you're constantly in a struggle, man against man. Sometimes you're getting double teamed and triple teamed, and you have to overcome for the greater good. You have brothers in arms that are standing right there with you that are trying to accomplish the same goal. And you have an adversary or a foe or an opponent that's trying to accomplish their goals, which go against yours. And I wanted to teach kids the value in the struggle. There's value in losing. There's value because you realize once you lose, you don't like it, right? So you're going to find out ways to let it never happen again. So you're going to work harder. You're going to study more. You're going to be a good teammate. You're going to maintain good character and integrity and respect. And I wanted kids to have that same experience that I had. And the majority of kids don't make it to the next level in their sport. But while they're here, while they're in high school, you can build those relationships and build those memories that will last a lifetime. And I don't remember a whole lot about games in high school or in college, but I remember more about the bus rides, about the hotel stays, just the locker room back and forth, the banter and the laughter and the and the crying, after your last game, whether it be your homecoming game, your last home game ever, and just feeling that well of emotions kind of overwhelm you, man, is nothing like it.
Eric, you spent some time in Barbados after your playing days. How did that shape you moving forward? What impact has that had on your life?
Wow. I think looking back at Barbados, and I have pictures on my wall here in my office and at home of our time there. My wife is from there, and it may have been JP, the Lord's way of getting me there to meet my wife. But spiritually, I really reconnected with the Lord there. And it really gave me a chance or an opportunity to reflect on things. In the Caribbean, really no matter which island you go to, life is a little slower there. Things, you can spend 45 minutes to an hour in the bank just to make a deposit. It's because people are talking and just kind of reminiscing and, oh, yeah, man, how you doing? And it's just really, really laid back. And it really allowed me to value what's important in life. At one point in my life, money, accomplishments, accolades, those were at the top of my list. But living in the Caribbean for about 14 years, I really saw that the important things are family, relationships, but more importantly, your spiritual relationship that you have with Christ. And that's what kind of keeps me going now, just that inner calm, the mellow, the laid back, man, no matter what happens, things are going to be all right. Like Bob Marley said, don't worry about a thing. You know the rest.
You've given us some of the virtues of football already. You're an avid golfer. You talked about winning a state championship in basketball, all these different sports that in one way or another have touched your life. Why do you think football emerged as the preeminent sport that has marked your lifetime?
JP, I had an opportunity to play baseball at smaller colleges, even basketball at some smaller colleges. I wasn't a D1 talent in basketball by any shape of the imagination, but I saw football as an avenue where I had the greatest opportunity. I saw football as a way out and a way up. And, God blessed me with, just these big old hands and big old feet and, and just the tenacity that I felt was unmatched by my opponents and those I was going against. And God gave me he gave football as an opportunity for me to get out and to get up, to expand my horizons, to open up new doors. I have friendships, still that I had 25, 30 years ago from college that, will last a lifetime. Those memories and those friends will always be there. And football provided that opportunity for me to do that. And I'm truly thankful for it.
Whether it be that kid on the sandlot in Hendersonville, somebody in the stands at Keenan Stadium, a young man you coached when you became the head man in the land of the Bearcats, wherever they might have touched your life, wherever you might have touched theirs, what do you hope is the lasting message that all those who've crossed paths with you have received from knowing Eric Gash?
Well, the first thing I would like people to say about me is that he had a relationship with Christ, that he was a God-fearing man, and that I tried to live my life like that. The Bible says you'll know a man by the fruit that he bears. And I pray that people will look at the fruit that I've borne and say, wow, he was a good guy. Because that's the banner that I hold the highest, is that of Christ. And without him and without my relationship with him, I couldn't be doing what I'm doing now. The doors wouldn't have opened like they've opened now. So I think that's first and foremost, that he was a firm believer in Christ and his life reflected that. Secondly, I'd like them to say that I was a good husband, to my wife of soon to be 24 years, that I loved her dearly, and continue to do so in spite of anything else. I would like people to say that I was a good father to my 3 kids, my 2 boys, Keelan and Jacob, and my daughter Maya, that I tried to raise them with the fear and admonition of the Lord, and instill discipline and respect in them, and love and character and integrity in them. And then next, I'd like for people to say that I was a good friend, that I tried to help them out where I could, and do the best I could for them when they really needed me, and just being there.
Well, I can speak to the last piece of that for sure. We appreciate you, not only your time here today, but your life. It's been a pleasure visiting with you, Eric.
Thank you, JP.